Hello, this is Bill Reed, Director of the National Hurricane Center. I'd like to welcome you to the Ocean City, New Jersey Hurricane Symposium. While I would really like to be there, having grown up in Delaware and enjoyed your fine beaches while on family vacations, it's obvious during the peak of the hurricane season that I, of course, need to be here. We want you to be prepared. If you get nothing else out of this conference, the ability to build a plan and be able to act on it at the time the hurricane comes is what I want you to have.
Ocean City, America's greatest family resort, a place where great memories are not only made, but often cherished. But just like any other coastal beachfront community, the sea not only provides a backdrop for great family fun, but also brings with it inevitable weather contingencies. In other words, Ocean City is at the mercy of Mother Nature's wrath. So what type of emergency could we possibly face here in our quiet little town by the sea? Basically, we'll be examining two types of potential storms that could impact us here in coastal New Jersey: nor'easters and hurricanes.
Hurricanes, in addition to their difference with a nor'easter coming at different times of the year, hurricanes are quick movers. By the time they hit this latitude, they're on the fast track to head toward the hurricane graveyard, which is in the North Atlantic. But the short time they're here can do a lot of damage.
There were two gentlemen, Mr. Saffer, who was an engineer, and Mr. Simpson, a meteorologist, and Mr. Saffer said, "You give me the wind and I'll tell you exactly what the damage potential will be on structures along the shore if you happen to have a hurricane." So they put their minds together and they came up with a scale that ranges from 1 to 5. The scale as it's used today by the National Hurricane Center is mainly for the damage potential from the winds. The surge would also be addressed in other bulletins issued by the local National Weather Service offices. Now, Category 1 would be when the winds reach 74 mile an hour sustained. I mean, these are not gusts now, these are sustained winds. Category 2 is when that wind is increased to 95 miles an hour. Then a Category 3, which is considered a major hurricane, would be 111 miles an hour sustained, and you can have gusts up to 130 miles an hour.
FEMA adopted a list of the top 10 most difficult places in the country to evacuate. Cape May County by name was identified as location number 6. And interestingly enough, the other 10 communities or areas that were identified in the list have all experienced minimally a Category 1 hurricane, where Cape May County has not had that experience to date.
Bright sunshine, kind of strange to be talking about hurricanes, but actually, this is the only time of the year we do talk about hurricanes. We're a week away or so from the peak hurricane season, which occurs in the middle of September. And a place like Ocean City or any of the barrier islands that run the gamut up and down the Jersey shoreline, certainly vulnerable to hurricanes. The impact is very strong. Channels either get deeper or wider, or they get filled in.
Jim, we all know Ocean City floods. I mean, ocean on one side, bay on the other. What would the storm surge or the flooding be like given a significant hurricane?
Unfortunately, Dan, the effects of a hurricane, a severe one anyway, does not end here on the beach or with this first line of homes. It's going to push much farther inland, and when it does, it's going to carry the surge with it, whatever that is, with the tide on top of it and the winds creating a lot of heavy wave action. It could possibly inundate the central part of the island there. Some of the municipal buildings with a Category 2 would have water halfway up them.
This would all be water here, right up to the dunes and maybe over the dunes, coming into the streets of Ocean City to be met by the bay on the other side, the west end of Ocean City. And as often happens in even nor'easters, the two bodies of water meet. Downtown Ocean City, you have several feet of water in the downtown area.
The sand dune would certainly go away, be washed away in several hours. And then it's a matter of how fierce the storm is, the duration of the storm, how high the surge gets, and how far inland it pushes. These homes would all be in jeopardy up and down the Jersey Shore.
It's something you never get used to when you see utter destruction. And the '62 storm was utter destruction on the south end, particularly in Ocean City.
Mr. Anselm's home is the site of a unique piece of historical documentation, a street pole marked by dark black lines that signify each storm's level of flooding.
So this actually is 1962, and my house would have been 2/3 underwater if it had been here at that particular time.
I am Edna Streecker May, South Ocean City resident for many years. I have been evacuated with my family several different times, so I have experienced some things that other people have not.
Edna is an authority on Ocean City storm history, thanks in part to her enormous collection of Ocean City storm photographs spanning generations of imagery. Edna recalls her account of the storm of '62.
We got to 33rd and Central and could see that we could not pass 34th Street because we could see emergency vehicles down there and police and so forth. And we only had one street, only one choice for a street to get all the way to the south end of Ocean City. So then Mike asked me, where did I want to go? I said, well, take me to the police department, which at that time in Ocean City, it was located on the north side of City Hall. And there I found quite a group of folks who had been evacuated from the north end of town. We had the water come into City Hall. And by that time, they moved us up to the fireman's dormitory on the 3rd floor of City Hall. And it just was quite an experience. I have never forgotten it. And if you learn something from me, then get out of town as quickly as you can.
All right, so we all know what the 1962 storm did to this town, and now we know what a hurricane or nor'easter could do to Ocean City today. So where does that leave us? What are our options?
In our kitchen, we have 2 large windows that we sit and watch the people that come to visit. And I have a sign that sits on my kitchen table that says, what is your plan? And it is always there, and my children, when they visit, always say, what does that mean? Well, they know very well what it means. You have to have a plan. So in the back of your mind always is, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And what am I taking with me?
Bottom line, you need a plan that addresses the actions you need to take to ensure the safety of you and your family.
Most of the storms that have affected New Jersey over this history have made landfall somewhere else and then crossed New Jersey as in a weakening state. But not all of them, and that's not to say that can't rule out the possibility that a major hurricane could strike New Jersey. In 1903, last time you had a direct hit from a hurricane, granted it was a Category 1, was moving straight north and came in from the Atlantic right over the Ocean City area. There were less than 50,000 people in Atlantic County, New Jersey. And since then, only indirect impacts, and now you're up to 250,000 or more people. And add to that the at least doubling of the population that you see during a heavy beach weekend in the holiday season in the summer.
I don't put myself in that situation. Until like today, if they said, oh, there's a hurricane, you have to evacuate, I probably would panic, like the rest of the world.
Would I be prepared for the hurricane? No, I wouldn't. But I would listen for the, always listen for the news, always watch the news, and that's how I'm alerted to stuff.
Throw everything in the truck and go.
You can always come back, you know? Can't replace yourself, you can replace everything else.
Oh, I think if there's evacuation, there has to be a reason for it, and just for the safety, and we have to go out.
I'm always ready.
I mean, we had a trial run. When was it? Friday? I wasn't prepared. I put gas in my car, and I thought about what I would do. How much money to take. Then I heard, you take your pills, important papers, which I don't know what that means. And then I thought about getting in the car with my dog. And where do you go? Which way? And on the way, how do I leave the dog in the car? What about food, water? I was not prepared.
I know that there's warnings and they tell us what to do in case, but I think everyone believes that it's not going to happen. Maybe we should pay more attention to it.
The first part of your plan when the storm comes is to know where to turn to for clear, accurate, and reliable information.
A lot of people want to know, well, where can I find the information? Well, there's many sources, and here in Ocean City, one of the best is the Hurricane Preparedness Guide, which was published by the Sentinel, and they've handed it out to all the residents on the island. Also, you can go to the National Hurricane Center's website at nhc.noaa.gov.
The entire hurricane warning process actually begins with the National Hurricane Center in Florida. They constantly monitor the tropics, they issue watches and warnings, and those warnings come down to the National Weather Service office, which our local office being based in Mount Holly, New Jersey. They issue local statements, localize it to the South Jersey and the Ocean City area, and they disseminate that information to local TV stations like here at NBC 40, Philadelphia stations, and all your local media then gets that information out to you as quickly, accurately, and efficiently as possible.
We then in turn would communicate that information to our citizens through a variety of means, which could include notices on our local channel 2, emails through our website, ocnj.us or ocemergency.com. We also utilize 1620 AM, and for actual National Weather Service warnings, we would utilize our Global Connect emergency notification system, otherwise known as Reverse 911, in which we can call citizens' landline phones as well as cell phones to alert them of emergency notification or storm notifications of an impending storm.
Okay, so we know where to go now for our information, but what do we do once we know we're facing a real weather situation?
If you happen to hear that there's a hurricane watch issued or a tropical storm watch issued, that's when you want to start making some preparations. You don't have to go hog wild and start leaving the island, but what you want to do is be aware of the storm, get some things ready to go.
Emergency management in any community is made up of a consortium of partners. A partnership that brings special tools to the table to make sure that the public is well cared for in times of disaster. In Ocean City, the fire department maintains a small fleet of vehicles specifically designed to respond and operate in severe weather. If we're coming to pick you up in one of these trucks, it's because you didn't heed the warnings early enough. Irregardless of the situation you're faced with, be it a significant hurricane or a major nor'easter, you need to have a plan. Plan to be self-sufficient for at least 72 hours. And in that plan, it should address such basic needs as where you're going to get water, food, your medications. Do you have gas in your vehicle? How are you going to maintain communications with your family? All these things need to be addressed and looked at before the storm gets here. And for more information on how to develop that plan, go to ocemergency.com and follow the links to FEMA.gov. Once on their homepage, open the tab, Are You Ready? And there's a myriad of information there to help you make your plan and help you be safe and not become a burden on your neighbors or the community. You'll be self-sufficient and well cared for.
But staying home will not always be an option with every storm. Unfortunately, stronger nor'easters and hurricanes usually involve a citywide evacuation.
In the event a hurricane or tropical storm warning is issued, then it's time to leave, and at that point you have to listen to the advices coming from your local TV station, TV 40, get that from your local emergency managers.
When we provide you with the information on when to evacuate, it's important to note studies have provided us with information that it will take at least 36 hours to evacuate this barrier island. That's important from the standpoint that we are flowing traffic from the barrier island onto the mainland areas in Cape May and Atlantic County. And if you wait till the last minute, there's always the chance that you will be stuck in traffic and be unable to get to those important locations of safety.
Well, on a day like today, which is absolutely gorgeous, unfortunately would be the day that the call for an evacuation would occur. Because one, you want to do it at daylight, and you want to get the people off. As you can see, the beach is just totally crowded. You want to get the people off the beach as quickly as possible. So unfortunately, you would have to make a call on a day like today, and there's a lot of people who would certainly be a little disgruntled about that, because as you see, the water's beautiful, there's not a cloud in the sky, and it's just perfect conditions for being at the shore.
I'm Dr. Carol McKinley, the Executive Director at the Shores of Wesley Manor. We're the home to about 300 residents located here in Ocean City, New Jersey, just a few blocks from the boardwalk. Though our residents really enjoy residing in this area, one of our biggest concerns is keeping them safe, particularly from storms and hurricanes. The first thing that we do is that we gather our residents together to talk about what is occurring. The information comes from the emergency management system. I receive faxes, I receive web emails, phone calls that tell me that we have a serious storm coming up the coast and that we need to keep our eye on it in terms of how bad it might be for the Ocean City area. It's very important that we keep an eye on timetables in regard to this situation, because if we're going to evacuate, we need to be able to be in contact with the bus transportation system that takes us to our evacuation sites. We also need to have enough time to pack up this building and move everybody. So our evacuation window, the time frame when we make those decisions, is 96 hours out from when a hurricane storm is starting to come up the coast. In the case of an evacuation, that's the time when we begin to share with the residents what they need to do and how it needs to be accomplished. For example, all of our residents have a box that they are provided to put their belongings in. This box will hold a 3-day supply of clothing. This is where also they can put their medication, and that's located in a baggie, particularly for those residents who handle their own medications. The residents then bring these boxes down to our lobby, and those boxes are placed on our buses. Why the boxes? Why not a suitcase? We have measured the square footages of the boxes, and we know that how many boxes can go on any one particular bus. So we know what residents are being moved, we have enough spaces for all the boxes, and that everything can go in one move rather than many moves.
As we saw after Hurricane Katrina, many people evacuated and left their pets behind thinking they could get back to their homes in a reasonable amount of time. And that wasn't the case, and a lot of pets were left abandoned and homeless, and if they had been better prepared, then we wouldn't have seen quite the devastation that we did. In the case of Ocean City, the shelter starts evacuating its pets to be out of the shelter 72 hours in case of natural disaster or emergency, and the shelter won't be here to take in pets when you have to evacuate yourself. You want to have a disaster kit put together. You want to have at least 3 days worth of food and water, any special medications. A crate is a good idea.
When we're looking at her crate here, the most important thing is to have her information attached to the crate. I would strongly suggest to put it in a waterproof pouch, because you don't know what the weather's going to be like when you're moving your animals from one place to another. Inside the envelope, you should have, first of all, on the outside is her name, the dog's name, your last name, and the phone number where they can reach you. Inside the envelope, you should have a copy of all the medical records pertaining to your animal, a color picture, and information sheet with her picture attached to the information sheet on emergency contact people, her veterinarian, and her, if she has any allergies and any distinctive markings.
Cat litter for cats, toys and things like that that make your animal feel a little more comforted.
The other thing we suggested you do is have your dog or cat microchipped. Microchipping is a painless procedure where they actually insert a microchip in the cat or dog's back of their scruff of their neck, and it has a tag number. Kona has one of them, and what happens is if she gets lost from me and somebody else discovers her, besides having a tag around her neck, she will have a microchip, and when they find her, they'll scan her and they'll be able to get her back to me.
It's important that you have a destination planned already for your family and your pets if you do have to evacuate. If you have no friends or family outside of the area, you can visit the Humane Society's website, hsocnj.org, for a list of pet-friendly hotels and motels in New Jersey.
It's never too early to leave. I'm not saying leave when a hurricane comes off the coast of Africa. It takes about 10 to 14 days across the ocean, but by the time it gets in a corridor near the Bahamas and it looks like an East Coast threat is likely, it's never too early to pack up. We can tell you usually 2-3 days out when a hurricane threat is imminent. You know, in the 4 to 5 day range, not many people are going to be evacuating. The earlier you do it, the better. So when it gets in a position off of Florida, I mean, we can't always see them coming, but hurricanes do move slowly enough where we can usually get a pretty good idea 2 to 4 days out when they are going to be a threat, at least a potential threat to the Jersey Shore. So when they get in that corridor, that Bermuda Triangle, if you will, that's when you really want to start paying attention. Always pay attention as they cross the ocean, as they get closer to the coast, within a 3 or 4 day kind of range of South Jersey. That's when it's never too early to leave, because better safe than sorry.
Unfortunately, the time when it would be to re-enter the island if you had a severe hurricane hit would be totally different than what you see today, and as a result of that, some people may not be able to return to the island for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on the intensity of the storm. And we're talking about a Category 2, and if we were to get a Category 3, it certainly would be worse than that. So you're talking weeks on end that you would have to be away from this area.
There's going to be a lot of work to be done by everybody involved, anywhere from our fire to police to the Public Works Department. We are out there, we're willing and ready to make things right and to get things cleaned up. It's going to take some time.
What's the cleanup process? What's the re-entry process for people as they come back to Ocean City?
Well, we know we can expect if there's been an evacuation that there's going to be debris in the roadway. We probably have a lot of downed utility poles. If it's been really bad on the ocean, we expect a lot of sand on the west side of the ocean front.
Sure, thoughts of powerful nor'easters and Category 5 hurricanes don't exactly go along with thoughts of America's greatest family resort. But the reality is that living here at the shore requires not necessarily a sense of panic, but a sense of responsibility. If we, as Ocean City residents, can take just a few moments to plan for an emergency, not only do we ensure our family's safety, but we can also enjoy all the benefits that come with living here at the shore. Remember, it has happened here before, and it's not a matter of if, but when it will happen again.
We live on a barrier island. We're sitting out in the ocean. You know our time will come. We will have a direct hit sometime. There is no doubt about it. Ocean City will sometime have a direct hit hurricane.